seasons as a member of the Rockets. Dunks of the game presented by Bigelow Tea.
Dose of DeAndre Jordan off dives. Everyone can just throw in a lob. He's got 2 reverse dunks. With 3 reverse dunks, he was just in a reverse dunking mood.
And how about this? James Harden.
Your Land Rover
drive of the game.
James Harden. Slip, slide, his ability to shift gears, and the flawlessness on the floor, doing a little bit of everything. But that drive was one of the prettiest for your Land Rover drives of the game.
That wraps it up from Houston. Once again, the final score, the Nets 132, the Rockets 114, 7 straight wins on the road for the Brooklyn Nets. For Sarah, Richard, Michael, our whole crew, Ian Eagle, so long. Chris and Frank, the postgame starts right now.
Bird, thank you very much. 132-114, the final. The Nets beat the Rockets in their final game before the All-Star break. And Frank, James Harden's return to Houston, very successful for the Beard, his 8th triple-double of the season.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a great game for James Harden. That's how good of a player he is. He doesn't even have great games, and he still gets a triple-double. Some of those outlet passes, though, guys running the court hard. Nicholas Claxton, Landry Shamet, you run the floor, he will see you. He is always looking up, and I give him a lot of credit tonight. He had a couple of sloppy turnovers, but he didn't want to make this all about him. He didn't say, you know what, I am scoring 50 points and everyone else just stand back. That's kind of what Victor Oladipo and John Wall were doing with the Houston Rockets. I mean, that would be 2 tough players to play with. But Harden, you got through this game. The Nets got through it. You go now into the break where everyone except for Kyrie Irving and James Harden will get rest. Remember, they're going to go down to Atlanta for the All-Star game. But, man, the Nets, the way that they're playing. To do this, and you only had Durant in one of these games during the win streak, it's pretty good.
That's what you have to look at, Nets fans. Kevin Durant, in the 37 games they've played in the first half, he's played 18 of them, and they're in the position that they're in right now, just a half game behind the Sixers because the Sixers beat the Jazz tonight in overtime. We'll get to that a bit later. Let's focus on James Harden, though. You said 8 turnovers. Not a completely good night for him. Still a triple-double, but let's be honest. He played 44 minutes Monday night in San Antonio. Zippo on the turnover.
Look at you making all the excuses for the player. No, hey. Early on, he had some really bad turnovers, but this is what you like about him. He's always got his head up. DeAndre Jordan, Nicholas Claxton, always getting dunks on. How about this move right here? Around Victor Oladipo.
Wow, unbelievable.
Had him right in the spin cycle. Look at this again.
You beat me to it.
Oh, and then the little Euro step at the end. Victor Oladipo's thinking, I got to take 3 more shots the next time I get the ball. Then the step back 3. Here you go. I mean, this was the run that happened when, and this is when he finally gets a triple-double
rebound.
You know, the Rockets did cut it to 8 at 105-97, and it's interesting about the Nets. It's almost like a confidence/arrogance about them. They don't get worried, and what do? They rattle up 8 straight points, 2 3-pointers from Harden, and the game is over.
And you see Harden joins this list, a triple-double in his first game against his former team. But you said it, Frank. He was just unbelievable all over the floor, setting up his teammates, hitting big shots when the Nets needed it. As you said, the Rockets cut it to an 8-point game, and who hits the big 2 threes? James Harden, ice in his veins, just comes down and nails them.
Yeah, and what also happened during that little run that they had? Nicholas Claxton working, got an offensive rebound for an easy putback. I'll tell you what, for a guy who you didn't really think much about early on in the season, how well has he played the last couple of games? Here,
absolutely.
This is easy. James Harden's going to get you the ball. This is what I like. Put the ball on the floor, then scored in traffic. That was impressive. I'm always been so sure he had that in his game.
And even though he started the season hurt, in these press conferences with Steve Nash, he was always mentioning him. There was always Nick Claxton right on the outside looking in, and as soon as he got healthy, the Nets knew what they had in him, and maybe this is why they were a little bit easier with dealing away Jared Allen.
Yeah, and that was that righty putback that we were talking about that made it 110-97. I'll tell you what, he's just getting essentially spot minutes, and he's putting up 16 points and 8 rebounds. Now, Houston didn't have any size on their team, so the Nets were dominating the paint, but there's nothing wrong, again, playing hard. running the court, fighting for rebounds. Because if you run the floor, James Harden is always looking to make that pass. He's looking to get into early offense. That's why guys love playing with James Harden. He's going to look to pass the ball, especially on this Nets team. If you're not looking to pass, you play for the Houston Rockets, where Victor Oladipo and John Wall would not stop shooting tonight. They were looking to pad this. That was a little tough to watch.
You called that before Richard Jefferson called that during the game as we were watching the game in our Yes Network
tough.
green room. Let's take a look now, Frank, at the Nets inside the numbers. Pre-All-Star break, 24-13 record, second in the Eastern Conference. As we mentioned, the Sixers beat the Jazz tonight in OT, so they moved to 24-12. Their win percentage is the third best in team history at the All-Star break, and games when the Big Three are all active, just 7. But they're 5-2, and that's what I brought up. Kevin Durant has only played 18 games, Frank. 18 games. Nets fans, this is what you have to look forward to in the second half when KD gets healthy. With all three of them running, this team is going to be ridiculous to watch.
And it's not like you're wondering, wow, how is Kevin Durant going to fit in? Kevin Durant does everything. Besides the fact that he's one of the elite scorers in the league, he also defends. He's a playmaker, never takes a bad shot. That's not going to be a problem. I think the only issue when he gets back, and it's a minor issue, how will all the role players now adjust? Because you're going to be playing fewer minutes. Can you be that effective playing shorter minutes than you're playing right now? But remember, Jeff Green is going to be a big part of this team as well, as is TLC. But come on, this Net team, which is right now fighting for first place in the Eastern Conference, and they've only had Kevin Durant for 18 games, it's pretty good.
The rotation is coming into a rack focus for this Nets team with Kevin Durant on the bench. Now let's step aside here, take our first break on the Nets postgame show. When we come back, we'll hear from the head coach, Steve Nash, as he meets the media. Last game before the All-Star break, his team gets the win. We'll also hear from Sarah Kustok and Richard Jefferson with a recap of the win and the first half of the season. Plus, we'll take a look at the Philadelphia 76ers and Utah Jazz highlights. All that straight ahead, right? Game. The Nets and the Rockets. Nets win tonight 132-114. There were a couple pivotal moments in this game. The Nets led by as many as 23. Yep. You wouldn't think there would be pivotal moments. We saw the one with James Harden in the fourth quarter. There was one in the third quarter late as well with Kyrie Irving and Coach Nash to start it off.
Yeah, and right here, Steve Nash just telling Kyrie Irving, just take it easy, play your game. By the way, Kyrie Irving did make his final 4 shots of the game. At one point, he was 6 for 18. But that run that the Houston Rockets went on, they cut it to 90-80, and Victor Oladipo had 12 points during that run. But coming out of the timeout, how about that ball movement right there? You don't expect to see Nicholas Claxton to Bruce Brown inside, and then Kyrie getting himself going right here with the pull-up 3 off the pass from Bruce Brown.
So the Rockets cut it to a 10-point game, and then the Nets break out of this timeout and go on an 8-0 run. And here's Brown setting up Shamet in the corner. Brown, Shamet, Claxton all played well off the bench tonight for the Nets. And then Irving once again here with another 3. So he shot the ball well, as you mentioned, Frank, especially later on in the game. They win 132-114. James Harden with his 8th triple-double of the season. Victor Oladipo with 33 points in the loss for the Rockets. Moments ago, our Sarah Kustok and Richard Jefferson wrapped up this game and the first half.
Thank you, Chris. Well, the Nets head into All-Star break doing pretty well. They're on a roll, winning 10 of their last 11. They've now won 7 straight on the road. And, of course, Richard, the one thing that we were waiting for, I think a lot of those inside the Nets organization, in particular James Harden, excited for him to finally make his return back to Houston, considering all he had done for the organization, how he's been doing for the community, and of course, the way that it ended. So when you look at this game, James Harden, 8th triple-double with the Brooklyn Nets. What did you see out of his approach and so much the performance as we've continued to watch him grow with this team?
Well, I just see persistence. When you watch the way James Harden approaches each game, there's no difference. That's why he's had so many triple-doubles. The amount of double-doubles he's had, double-digit assists in all but I believe 4 games that he has played as a Net. And so his approach this season has been surgical. And when you talk about all the emotions that come with playing back home, and we talked about it on the broadcast, where his numbers here in Houston alone most likely would put him in the Hall of Fame, and he still has so much more of basketball to play. But I love the way he led this, and a lot of times team players try and support a player when they're going into these environments. Obviously not a hostile environment. It wasn't packed with fans, so it wasn't probably as emotional, but it's great to get that monkey off your back and get a win your first time playing back with your old team.
Yeah, and not only was James Harden extraordinary, but you take a look at the fact that the Nets have 33 assists, the continued look from top to bottom, how everyone is able to make contributions. A lot of that initiated through how James Harden has been organizing this offense. What have you noticed in the growth, whether it's Nicholas Claxton, how he's come on, Bruce Brown, how he continues to play, Joe Harris, of course, Kyrie Irving? What does that do for this group now here in the first half of the season, having so many of these complementary and role players contributing?
Well, I think the entire league, that's what the entire league is kind of worried about. That's when you start to see Landry Shamet playing well. You're starting to get contributions, whether it's Tyler Johnson or Landry Shamet. Claxton coming on has been amazing because you see that he's capable. When you have a rookie and he's sitting behind two very, very good players, all of a sudden he gets an opportunity, and he's not a deer in headlights. He's going out there and contributing, blocking shots. You can see his comfortability continuing to increase every single game and every minute he's out on the floor. And that's just giving the rest of the league notice that it's not just three superstars you're going to have to deal with, but there is a crew of guys that's coming behind them that also has a lot of confidence that's growing.
Yeah, crew coming behind, including the hopeful return of Kevin Durant, Jeff Green, Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot did not play here tonight. So the Nets look to eventually get back to full strength as we take a break here for All-Star break and get back at it against Boston next Thursday. For myself and Richard Jefferson, Chris, let's send it back to you guys in the studio.
Sarah, Richard, thank you. When we come back, we will hear from that man, head coach Steve Nash. That's next, right here on Yes.
Got FOMO, the fear of missing out?
Oh, no.
Fans in Houston, although he was wearing a Brooklyn Nets uniform as he was doing it, 8 triple-doubles in his 23 games, second in franchise history. Jason Kidd has those 61. Back-to-back triple-doubles, third time this season, and 4 triple-doubles in his last 9 games since the Kevin Durant injury. He's also leading the NBA in assists per game, and someone else who knew a thing or two about assists, he's third all-time in history. His head coach, Steve Nash, met the media moments ago. Michael Grady had the first question. He asked Coach about the perspective of the first half.
Coach, starting the season, new faces, your first year as head coach. What kind of foundation do you feel like you've been able to set in these first 37 games?
Yeah, I think I look at it. I think most importantly that we're building a team. We're defining roles and identity at both ends, and the team is bonding, and there's a great environment and atmosphere forming. So that's the review of the first half for me in a nutshell. I think we definitely got to continually fight for improvement, invest in each other and those bonds, and defensively play like underdogs, because that's something that's going to take us a long way if we can get ourselves to a greater level at that end of the floor.
Another triple-double for James Harden. Can you name one thing that really jumps out that he brought to the team that either was missing or hadn't yet manifested itself?
Yeah, I think the playmaking is obvious. He's such a brilliant distributor, playmaker, makes the game easy for others and makes others better. For me, though, the surprise, I knew that was no surprise. What's been, I don't want to say surprise, but I didn't know what his patterns of behavior were. And so his leadership, his professionalism, being a good teammate, like all those things, he's been outstanding. So that's been, really incredible to, I think, not only for us as coaches, but for his teammates to have a player that gifted, but ticks all those boxes as well.
Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
Steve, at the break, you've had the big three for only 7 games. You've had Kevin for just 19 of the 37. So my question for you is, how much better can this team get?
We can definitely improve. Kevin Durant's one of the, the all-time greats. So to add him to our team will make us better automatically, but we still can improve with our cohesion, that continuity of having hopefully some health for an extended period of time. We can get better defensively, understanding and refining our schemes and learning to feel tighter together with them. That's a big part of it, not just knowing what to do, but knowing who you're playing with and how you can communicate and make things easier or more effective. So plenty of areas to improve in, and that's the fun. That's the fun, is seeing growth and seeing improvement.
Ryan Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Steve. James on court was acknowledging that he may have tried to do a little bit too much early, causing some of the turnovers. But obviously, he clearly settled in. I'm curious, could you tell how much this was meaning to him and how excited he was to be out there? And did something that something that he did settle him in, or something somebody said to him, or was it just the way the Rockets were trying to trap the ball out of his hands?
Yeah. You could tell it meant something to him. This place is special for James. Houston means a lot to him, the city, the organization, what he accomplished here with these teams. So, I know it was a big game for him. I was, proud of him for the way he handled it. I think the turnovers in the first half, I don't even know if, I want to put all that on him. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes when you're trying to create for your team at the rate that he does, you're going to turn it over. They were trapping a little bit, and maybe it was one or two were careless. We added all up, and there's a few too many turnovers. But he also did a lot of great things, and then finally settled in. I mean, you look at his stat line: 3 steals, a block to go with the triple-double. So, outstanding performance.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Steve, in the third quarter, I want to say it was, when the Rockets were starting to shave off the lead a little bit. It looked like in that timeout, you kind of pulled Kyrie aside and had your hand on his shoulders and were saying something to him. Was the message don't force or stop pressing a little bit, or was it something else you were trying to get across to him there?
No, I was just checking in with him, making sure he's okay, and making sure he's in the right frame of mind. And, these are tricky games. The last game before a break, you got a short window to spend time with loved ones. For Kai and James, they got to go to All-Star weekend. It's tricky mentally when you play such an intense schedule, and then you have one game before you're free, and it's kind of like the last day of school. It's hard to focus, and so I was just kind of checking in and making sure he was okay, and he played well down the stretch and made some big shots.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach. Similar time frame. You guys were up 23 in the third quarter. Rockets cut it down to 10, and then you guys extended back out to 18. Same thing happens in the fourth quarter, and the Rockets cut that 18-point lead down to 10, and then you guys just blew it open. Have you seen, I guess, growth in the team's response to adversity? And can you just talk about how they've matured in that way over the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think, on the one hand, you're disappointed that we allowed them to get back to 10 a couple of times. On the other hand, they did a great job of extending the lead immediately. We call a timeout, we draw a play, we get a bucket, get a stop. We're back on it. So it's hard in this league. You play a team, they got nothing to lose. They had 8 players, they had total freedom and green light, and they're going to go on little runs when they make shots, and they did that. They made their threes tonight. So, I'm proud of our group's growth over the first half, and that's one of the things I think we have shown, like overtime the other night against San Antonio. They come back from an 8-point deficit within 2 minutes, and we could have folded. We came out in overtime, bang, bang, and put ourselves back up 6 or 8 right away. So, it's a great response, competitive group, and, I'm proud of them for that response.
Laura Albanese with Newsday.
Nicholas Claxton, he's a player who obviously has a lot of promise, but was a little bit of an unknown entity since he was hurt for so long. What have you seen from him in the last few weeks? And what do you think about his makeup has allowed him to just adapt and mature to the game so quickly when he doesn't have much experience?
Yeah. Well, it's been rough for him. 20 months or so he's been in the NBA. He's played very few games. He probably hasn't played for a year until this week. But, we all see the potential. He's a long, athletic, mobile, modern 5 who can dribble, pass, finish around the rim, be a lob threat, and he can defend on the perimeter or inside. So We see the potential. We worry a little bit about him adapting back to the physical demands, after such a long layoff. But, he's got himself through a few games here in a week, and, we're keeping his minutes down, but he's growing, he's performing. I mean, you look at him tonight, 16 points, 8 rebounds in limited minutes. That's outstanding. So, but we try to keep Nick's feet on the ground, keep him humble and hungry, and little bit by little bit not get ahead of himself, because if he just stays the course and keeps his head down, he's going to really be a good player.
Last question, back to Christian Winfield with the Daily News.
Not sure if we're going to be able to talk to you between now and after the All-Star break, but what are you going to do with this time? Is there such thing as off time, or are you going to be knee deep in film looking at ways to get better?
Well, I'm going to try to do a bit of both. I'm going to try to go away with my wife if we can, and then start to regroup and think about the second half. How can we improve? What is our plan here to make sure we're not missing any, levels of our improvement or layers of our improvement, and just take a step back and take a broader view, and then get more granular with our design and all the things that we need to do coming out of the break.
Thanks so much, Coach. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Good night. Have a good week.
Steve Nash happy to be on a little bit of a vacation there. Nets best records at the All-Star break. You see where 2020 and 2021 falls into play. 24-13, and they were a Sixers loss from being first in the Atlantic Division, Frank, for the first time since the 05-06 season. And oh, by the way, they are 13-4 against the West this year, which includes wins over the Jazz, the Lakers, and the Clippers.
And, they've won 10 of 11. And Steve Nash, the things that he's talked about, he said fight for improvement. He said he wants everyone to invest in each other. And then he said, let's defend like we're underdogs. And I think they've actually done that during this stretch. I think the biggest question now for the Nets really is something that no one can answer. What is the health of Kevin Durant? That's the only question mark. We all would like to believe that he's going to be healthy. That'll be the key. How long, when will Kevin Durant come back, and can he stay healthy? Because if Kevin Durant's going to be fine, because we watched the way that he played at the start of the season when he was okay, it's going to be very difficult to beat the Brooklyn Nets the way that they're playing right now in a 7-game series. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you add Kevin Durant to the mix, they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, everything seems to be falling in place for Steve Nash and company, and that's with Durant on the bench. Just wait until he comes back. And one of the teams that they might have to deal with in the postseason was in action tonight at home against the Jazz. That would be the Philadelphia 76ers. Spider-Man doing everything a spider can. Donovan Mitchell, including getting into a little bit of a verbal turnovers. And like we said earlier in the show, he played 44 minutes against San Antonio and had no turnover.
And he was a team best plus 17. Which he always seems to be at the end of the night somehow, even on a night where he has 8 turnovers. And Steve Nash was asked about it. And, Steve Nash, just like Jason Kidd, they would have games like that as well. When you're always looking to push the pace, throw the ball ahead, keep the defense off balance, you do sometimes turn the ball over. He had a couple of sloppy ones earlier in that first quarter. It didn't cost him.
8 double-doubles for Harden this season. It's the most he's had since he had 22 back in the 2016-17 season. With the Rockets, we'll see if he can continue that in the second half. Let's take a look now at the Jazz and 76ers highlights. Now, we mentioned if the Sixers lost this game, which they didn't, I'm rushing the bit and I'm sorry, the Nets would have been in first place. Donovan Mitchell over Joel Embiid, a little foreshadowing. It's like a movie here, Frank.
And then you get Embiid on the outside, a little more foreshadowing because he knocks down a 3. Look at you could tell he's in really good shape now.
MVP? Is he at the top of the list first half?
He's in the conversation. He wasn't in the picture there when Gobert had the wide open dunk. But Utah had a 13-point lead, and then Embiid steps back. They need a 3, and he buries it.
Over Bojan Bogdanovic there. That sends the game into overtime. Then it's Tobias Harris giving the Sixers the lead. He gets the friendly roll in Philly. Philly up 2 here. And it's Bogdanovic this time drilling a 3 to put the Jazz back on top. But once again for Philly, it's Harris. And how about this one, Frank?
He always kind of reminds me on these shots a little bit of Carmelo Anthony. The guy
kind of body movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then at the end of the game, Donovan Mitchell.
See, I think he's getting into it with the referees right there.
He might have,
two technicals got ejected. It looked like Embiid was trying to play peacemaker a little bit or calm him down.
A little bit. It didn't look...
By the way, they could end up on the same team In the All-Star,
All-Star game.
Yeah, we'll know tomorrow when Kevin Durant does the draft.
Absolutely. 131 to 123, the final there. And we take a look now at the Eastern Conference with the first half for the Sixers and Nets in the rearview mirror. And it's just a half-game lead for Philadelphia as we're getting into this second half after the All-Star break. Is this a two-team race? I know we got the Bucks there. I know we have Giannis. It's the Sixers and Nets at the top, though.
No, I think right now it's three teams in the Eastern Conference. Remember something about Boston? Marcus Smart has missed 17 games.
That's true.
And also, Jimmy Butler just missed the last 2 games for Miami. I still think Miami will be a little bit better. But interesting, Boston, Miami, the Lakers, and Denver, all teams, the Final Four in the bubble, have all struggled at certain points this year. Injuries have had something to do with it, but they've also had some other issues.
Frank, we heard from Joe Harris with Michael Grady on the court at the end of the game. He met the media just a short time ago. Let's hear some more sound from Joe.
Hey, Joe. You guys were up 23 in the third. They cut it down to 8, and then you guys go on an 8-0 run. And then they cut it back down to 10 in the fourth quarter, and then you guys kind of just blow it wide open. Can you just and also the same thing happened in San Antonio yesterday, right? Well, 2 days ago, right? The Spurs go on a run late to close the fourth quarter, and then you guys kind of blow it open in overtime in that game. Can you talk about the way that you guys have started to respond to adversity at this point in the season versus the way you guys may have responded to adversity earlier in the season?
Yeah, I think it just shows the maturity of the group. I mean, we realize that teams are going to make runs at given points over the course of the game, and in particular late in games too. They kind of got it going there shooting wise. They started making some shots, hitting some tough contested threes, finishing at the rim, getting some fouls. But we just kind of stay resilient, honestly, and a lot of that falls on the guys that are at the top. You got Steve, James, Kai, DJ, Jeff Green. Like everybody's so even keeled that when teams do make those runs, they're relaying the information back to the team, talking about just withstanding it, staying with it, and we've been able to kind of hold off some of the momentum and pushes from the Spurs the other night and then the Rockets tonight.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Joe, I'm just curious what you thought of Nick's recent play. I want to say one of the only guys on the roster that was able to play with him last year. And, he's only played 20 games in 20 months or so. I mean, is he still a rookie in your eyes in some ways, or is he kind of showing you enough to where he doesn't have that mantra anymore?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not a rookie anymore. But, I mean, it's not like we make the rookies really do anything anyways. Clax probably could have got by all last year. He would have never realized that he was a rookie. But he's played really well for us. He's been huge coming back. I think for him, a lot of it was just trying to get healthy, get your body right, because it's tough. When you're sitting out that long, he's missed, a majority of his NBA career, and he's really just itching to play, get out and compete. And, for him to come out, just be able to compete on a nightly basis, that's huge for him. But he's shown a lot, in terms of playing off of guys, competing, being in the right spots, and giving us a lift off the bench.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Joe. James was saying earlier that he was, he credited some of his early turnovers to just being so fired up and trying to do too much while he was out there. One, could you sense as he was settling into the game, and could you tell how much this game meant to him to come back here and play in Houston?
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you have given so much to a city, been a part of it, this is a fabric of his DNA as a basketball player. Majority of his career has been spent here, and it obviously means a lot to him. But with James, the same thing. You would never know coming into it. I mean, he's still same pregame sort of ritual preparation. He was locked in, focused from the start. And to be honest, I didn't even really notice any sort of jitters, anything like that. But you could definitely tell that he wanted this one.
Tom Dowd with BrooklynNets.com.
Hey, Joe, heading into the All-Star break, after the game, did Steve have any kind of messaging just in terms of, wrapping up this first half of the season and where you guys stand now and looking forward to the second half?
Yeah, I think, he talked about it a little bit there right after the game, just about how much we had improved, in particular these last, 10, 11 games. And, we were really starting to kind of come together. We obviously are looking forward to having Kevin back, getting a lot of their other roster healthy. We have guys that are banged up right now. So the break will be huge, just to get guys healthy, and then hopefully we can continue this momentum in the second half.
David Chinalata with La Gazzetta dello Sport.
Hey, Joe, along the same lines, what do you think, what stand out to you as, the best thing you guys did in this first part of the season?
I think us to sort of collectively starting to gel together. There's been a lot of stuff early on was just, I wouldn't say chemistry issues or anything like that. I think it's just hard when you bring guys in that you're unfamiliar playing with, and we don't have a lot of practice time. So we're really trying to learn on the fly through the games, and we're really starting to gel now. And a lot of that was just, sort of patience and taking time, at the junctions in the season, in which we picked up new guys. So we're starting to come into it now. We've still been battling injuries, different COVID protocols, like much of the rest of the league, but we're starting to find our rhythm a little bit.
Matt Brooks with Nets Daily.
Hey, Joe, for you personally, what's the thing that you are looking at with this little bit of break of time that you want to improve upon the most for you just over this little break? And second off, what are you doing for the break? Do you have anything fun planned?
Yeah, I'm just going to be chilling over the break, to be honest with you. I mean, it's been like an insane year up to this point, and the second half is just as crazy in terms of the rigor of the schedule. So I'm capitalizing on getting some rest, enjoying some time with my loved ones, and that's it.
Last question, Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
Joe, how would you describe the camaraderie of this group now that the first half is complete?
I think, I touched on it earlier just about how it's one of those things where we just didn't have a ton of time, together early on. It wasn't like James and a lot of the guys that are on the roster were here at the beginning of the season. There's been a lot of shakeup over the course of the season, but we're starting to get to a point where, things are getting solidified. And you're starting to see it though on the court as well, where, guys are picking up for one another offensively, defensively, feeding off one another, feeling each other in terms of rhythm and, predetermining what's going on. And a lot of that is just the continuity, just getting used to playing with one another. And you're starting to see that now. And hopefully we can continue, even getting even better at it, because in the grand scheme of things, we really even haven't spent that much time together.
19 points tonight for Joe Harris. He was 4 of 5 from deep. James Harden led the way for Brooklyn with 29 points. We jokingly mentioned he was 74 points away from tying Larry Bird for 34th on the all-time scoring list. He's now 45 points away. That's a little bit more manageable for Harden. Moments ago, he met the media. Our Michael Grady was in the leadoff spot.
Hey, James, you've had at least a little bit of time to kind of digest your evening overall, from seeing familiar faces, the crowd reaction, the win. How was your night overall?
I'm excited. We got to win. We've been playing very, very good basketball. And to finish our strong like this, to go on the All-Star break means a lot to us. Hopefully we can get guys healthy. KD, Jeff, TLC. And after the break, keep this train rolling. And as far as playing in Houston, a lot of mixed emotions from the fans, but knew that was going to happen. I just wanted to come out here and give them a show.
What does it say about this group to be playing so well? You've won 9 of the last 10 games headed into the break, playing so well, and you, Kevin, and Kyrie have only played 7 games together.
It means a lot. It shows a lot about this team. We had guys end out the lineup, and it's the next man up. Guys are ready to come in and play big minutes and contribute to the game and to the team. So, it's good playoffs. It's always like that. So I think we're molding and building everybody's confidence up to be ready to, when your name is called, to be coming in the game and contribute. So it was great for us. Like I said, I'm excited for our full team to be healthy, and we keep this thing going.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, James. You said you were excited to get the win, and there were a lot of mixed reactions with the fans. I'm curious, A, was it what you expected, the reception? And B, how did it feel out there? I mean, what Did it feel like what you expected it would feel like? Coming home to win.
For me, I mean, once I get on that court, it's just trying to win. You know, I'm not really worried about anything else. So that was kind of, you know, my feeling. Win the game and do whatever it takes and do what you've been doing. Wasn't trying to show off, wasn't trying to do anything out of the ordinary that I haven't been doing. You know, tonight I got a little, you know, carried away with some loose turnovers. But other than that, just playing my brand of basketball and the way we've been playing as a team and trying to get a win.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, James, the news came out yesterday that Houston's going to retire your number 13 at some point. Just do you remember how you found out and what your reaction was when you found out?
On the internet. But my reaction was, you know, hopefully I did something right. Obviously, I came up short of a championship, but the work on and off the court that I put in over those past 8 years, you know, was elite, you know, and I obviously I think that's the only thing that I didn't do or didn't accomplish is the championship, which is difficult to you know, obtain. But as far as, you know, bringing excitement to the city, you know, taking care of the fans, on and off the court is something that I try to contribute. So hopefully that outweighs that.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, James, I know you've only been here for about a month and a half, but I mean, first in San Antonio, you guys were up 8 with about 2 minutes to go. The Spurs just send it to overtime, and then you guys come out in overtime and end that game pretty quickly. Then tonight, the Rockets cut the 23-point lead down to 10. You guys go on an 8-0 run, then they cut that lead back down to 10 in the fourth quarter, and you guys blow it open. Have you seen any growth in the way the team responds to opposing teams going on runs from the moments that you got here to now?
Yeah. When it's time to lock in and time to focus, we do that. Obviously, you know, being up so many points, you know, it's natural just to get comfortable and relax a little bit. And then some teams like San Antonio, you know, go on runs. They play good defense and make shots. So, you know, give those teams credit. But I think for us, we know what we're trying to accomplish, and we know our positioning on the court on both ends of the ball. And so when we're not doing that, we have to get back to that fast. And we've done a really good job of that. So adding KD back, adding Jeff back, adding TLC back is going to bring more excitement and it's going to have a lot more fresh legs.
Christy Reichen with the Associated Press.
Hi, James. I know you said that you don't really think about anything but basketball when you get on the court, but was tonight at all emotional for you, or did you feel any emotions maybe afterwards when you're talking to PJ and some of the other guys?
No, I mean, a little weird just, you know, being on the opposing side, but once I got on the court, it was, you know, I'm locked in. And that's just how I am as a basketball player.
Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
James, you've played 23 games so far in Brooklyn in this unprecedented basketball season. How would you describe this experience as we head to the break?
So far, so good. Everything that I signed up for, top to bottom, you know, it's been great, you know, and adversity has hit us as far as, you know, not missing any games. So, you know, we've been playing every other day, schedule-wise, and, you know, then we're affected by injuries, guys in and out of lineups, crazy, weird things happening. But I think we fought through adversity, and we're in a really good position, you know. So now we've kind of known each other. We know each other a little bit better. Now it's time to, you know, get some rest, take care of your body, and then be ready to go. Second half is going to be huge for us in the sense of how fast we can get out to a great start. Everybody goes through the same thing. There's no excuses, and we're here. And we're not here to make any.
Kelly Iko with The Athletic.
Hey, James, obviously this is a team that you played for so many years, but now having played against them, how would you assess how they're transitioning into this new era without you?
I mean, I haven't really been focused on them. I've been focused on, you know, on what my new situation. But it's a process, you know. As long as you put the work in and continue to stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing, good things turn in your favor. That's all I can say about that.
Vince Goodwill with Yahoo Sports.
James, you mentioned a couple questions earlier just about playing your style and playing your way. Just out of curiosity, is it more freeing playing that way when you don't have to have the responsibility of being the number one guy where there's other franchise players there? Is there, like, compared to maybe a burden of being the franchise guy, the only franchise guy like you were in Houston?
What was the question?
Is it more freeing, not having the responsibility?
This league is tough no matter what. Like, you got, like, how you separate yourself from being one of the elite players in this league is playing at a high level consistently every single night. Like, it's great, and it's easy for somebody to have a great game every once in a while, but you separate yourself as far as being one of the ones, top 5, top 10 in this league when you do it every single night at the highest level. So that's what I pride myself on, no matter if I was in the situation when I was in Houston or I'm in a situation now. My thought process is trying to play well every single night and trying to make an impact on the game every single night.
Mark Medina with USA Today.
Hey, James, Steve praised your leadership style ever since you got here. What's been your approach with that overall?
The same. It's just I get credit now, and previously I wasn't getting credit. Same leadership. I've been the same person. Haven't changed not one bit.
Don't get me wrong, Frank. Considering what we're going through right now, having any amount of fans in an arena is great to see. But how great would it have been if that was packed for his return?
And that's why I think James Harden is happy to get through this game. Because I think for a lot of players, when Kevin Durant went back to Oklahoma City when he was with the Golden State Warriors, Kyrie went back to Boston this year, weren't any fans there. But I think for a lot of those guys, they want to get over that hurdle, just like when LeBron went back to Cleveland that first time. So I think he's relieved more than anything else, and they got out with a win. And, he was asked about leadership, and, our producer, Josh, he thinks that leadership is screaming at us in the production meeting. I mean, that's one form of it, but leadership from James Harden is that he goes out there and he plays hard, he passes the ball. If you run the floor, I will fine you. That is an example of leadership. Every time the referee throws the ball up, James Harden is on the court ready to play. That's leadership. He's yelling again, right?
Josh is yelling at me to go to break.
He's always yelling. He yells a lot. He's scary.
I have to go to break, Frank. I'm sorry. Josh is screaming. Kyrie Irving, he had a great game tonight as well, 24 points. James Harden, he did his thing in his former stomping grounds. When we come back, Frank and I will look at the first half and look ahead to the second. That's next on